Built in 1909 by Stanley steamer co-inventor F.O. Stanley, the Stanley Hotel in Colorado is renowned for its luxury, historic, and allegedly haunted status. Famous for inspiring Stephen King's The Shining, the hotel is plagued by reports of spectral activity, including the spirit of head chambermaid Elizabeth Wilson in room 217 and phantom piano music in the ballroom. The mountain air of Estes Park doesn't just bite, it lingers, pressing against the glass of the Stanley Hotel like a frozen hand. When freelance Oscar Stanley built his grand Neo-Georgian manor in 1909, he envisioned a sanctuary of pristine white timber and rolling valley views. He wanted a monument to human ingenuity, a place where the wealthy could escape the soot of industrial America. But foundations poured in isolation often trap more than just concrete. The hotel was a labyrinth from the start, a collection of cavernous ballrooms, high ceilings, and endless, echoing corridors designed to swallow sound. Yet, the sounds never truly died. They merely sank into the floorboards, waiting for the right current to pull them back to the surface. The transition from a luxury retreat to something altogether different began under a heavy sky on June 25, 1911. A brutal summer storm tore through the Colorado peaks, severing the hotel's main power lines. The grand chandeliers flickered, groaned, and died, plunging the vast structure into a suffocating, pitch-black silence. The management, desperate to keep the guests comfortable, activated the backup auxiliary gas lighting system. It was an volatile, experimental setup, a web of iron pipes pumping vaporized gasoline directly into the ceilings of the guest quarters. Elizabeth Wilson, the head chambermaid, was a woman defined by her duty. She moved through the dark corridors with a heavy ring of iron keys and a box of long wooden matches, her boots clicking softly against the hardwood. When she reached room 217, the air inside felt dense, thick with a sickly sweet odor that she mistook for stale dampness. She struck a single match. The spark didn't just catch, it tore the room apart. A massive gas pocket had formed in the ceiling crawlspace, and the flame ignited a catastrophic explosion that ripped through the floorboards. The blast was violent enough to fracture the wooden joists, dropping Elizabeth through the splintering timbers into the smoking ruins of the McGregor dining room directly below. She survived the fall, suffering 2 broken ankles and a shattered pelvis, but her relationship with room 217 didn't end with her recovery. She returned to the hotel, working its halls until her death in the 1950s, bound by a sense of obligation that even the grave failed to dissolve. Decades later, the physical damage of the explosion had been patched with fresh plaster and wallpaper, but the space inside room 217 remained warped. Guests who checked into the room began to notice a strange, meticulous shifting of their belongings. A suitcase placed by the door would be found neatly unzipped, its contents folded with military precision inside the wardrobe. Boots left muddy by the hearth were lined up against the baseboard, wiped clean of trail dust. But Elizabeth's spirit carried a strict, old-world morality into the afterlife. She was a woman of the Edwardian era, and the modern world's casual attitude toward relationships offended the residual consciousness left in the room. Unmarried couples who shared the bed reported an invisible, freezing wedge driving itself directly between them in the dead of night. Men awoke to find their pillows yanked violently from beneath their heads, thrown across the room by an unseen hand, while their female partners remained undisturbed, wrapped in an unnatural, icy draft. Further down the eastern wing, the grand ballroom served as a separate reservoir for the hotel's collective memory. Long after the guests had retired and the heavy oak doors were locked for the night, the faint, tinny chords of a Steinway grand piano would drift through the keyholes. The music was never frantic, it was a slow, melancholic waltz, the notes muffled as if traveling through deep water. When night watchmen investigated, shining their lanterns into the dark, empty hall, the music would instantly cease, leaving only the soft vibration of the copper piano strings humming in the dark. On several occasions, employees looking down from the mezzanine reported seeing the faint, shifting silhouettes of long evening gowns swirling across the polished floor, dancing to a rhythm that only the dead could hear. The hotel didn't just retain its old staff, it kept its smallest guests. The long, carpeted hallways of the 4th floor, originally built to house the children and nannies of wealthy patrons, became a playground for things that never grew old. Guests sleeping in the rooms below complained of the rhythmic, heavy thudding of a leather ball bouncing against the floorboards directly above their heads at 3 in the morning. Others reported the distinct sound of small, bare feet scurrying across the hallways, followed by low, stifled giggles. When security checked the corridors, they found the carpets completely undisturbed, the heavy fire doors locked, and the air smelling faintly of old peppermint and wet wool. By the time a young, exhausted writer named Stephen King checked into room 217 in the late autumn of 1974, the hotel was preparing to close for the winter. He was the only guest in the entire echoing structure. The vast dining room was empty, the chairs turned upside down on the tables, and the wind from the Rockies howled through the drafty window frames. That night, the isolation of the Stanley Hotel poured into his mind. He dreamed of his young son being chased through the long, uncarpeted hallways by a whistling fire hose that moved like a snake. He woke up dripping with sweat, a single inch away from the window overlooking the dark valley. He realized then that the hotel wasn't just a building, it was an amplifier for every dark thought ever conceived within its walls. The entities of the Stanley do not scream from the shadows, nor do they thirst for blood. They are caretakers of an eternal loop, trapped in a grand wooden cage of their own making. They turn the keys, they play the keys, and they walk the halls, ensuring that the grand house Freeland Stanley built never truly becomes empty. The lights may go out, and the snow may bury the roads to Estes Park, but inside the white walls, the guests are always waiting.